Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Um, Followers of this YouTube channel or my Psychology Today articles know that I've written a lot about aging, especially now that I've just passed 70. And most recently, I did one of my public radio San Francisco radio programs. It's in the can on aging. And it was 28 minutes and made me think that maybe I need to create a very distilled version of all that of the best ideas from about aging in a more compact package, and I'm hoping to make this Psychology Today article that will be posted tonight. But I thought I'd share it with you first, and it's short. It should take me about 3 minutes from here. Anyway, first, if you're still of working age, try to use your age to advantage. Your all those years you've had at the game of work have taught you some things that a newbie can't yet have learned. And also you've had more time to build a network of people to call on for advice or for help in landing a job. If you are looking for work, there are jobs for which age is a plus. And a few examples: fundraiser. It normally takes decades to acquire wealth that's sufficient to afford major donations. And plus, older people may prefer to donate to a solicitor who he or she himself has a few gray hairs. And especially amid the economic shutdown of COVID, companies and nonprofits alike are desperate for more money, and so fundraisers may be one of the maybe a COVID-friendly job area. Another area where being older could be a plus is big ticket sales. The for-profit analog to fundraising is salesperson of expensive items that only usually older people can afford, or mainly older people, because it takes time to acquire wealth, and that's, for example, luxury cars, senior housing, but also life insurance. And in fact, any employment where the company serves an older clientele could work. The obvious example is, say, in a senior living community, it doesn't have to be in sales, it could be as an activity director, a waiter, office manager, whatever. And there are other examples that maybe are not as top of mind. The industry of durable medical equipment, wheelchairs, hospital beds, and the like. Estate planning and administration, whether or not you're a lawyer. There are jobs within those law firms as, everything from paralegal to legal secretary and clerks. Then there's, of course, the funeral industry, and then luxury travel. Of course, like many fields, that's impeded, at least temporarily, because of COVID. Also, you may be less subject to age discrimination in companies that have been around a long time, as opposed to a startup, and in government. If you've accumulated significant savings, you may have the luxury of looking for work, even if it's lower paid or volunteer, that you'd find rewarding. That's another advantage of being older, if you've accumulated money, and I know that many people have not. But, we're used to a certain level of income, and it's hard to break the habit. So if, in fact, you can afford to take less money, you might want to prioritize more doing what you think is most rewarding to others and to yourself. Now, one more thing about if you're still in the work world. Even if you're a low-level employee, you have learned a lot over your lifetime. And if you think it's appropriate, brand yourself as a wise elder. So you might be offering to mentor people who don't necessarily have to be young, within or outside your workplace. And even if you're not formally being a mentor, in the meetings that exist these days, Zoom meetings, it's part of that brand could be say, I experienced that one time a while back, and in that situation what worked is blah. And that way you're demonstrating the value of being older. But now let's turn to if you are in retirement. As you age, you and me are increasingly subject to aches and pains. I'm fortunate I haven't had it yet, but it's going to come. It comes to everybody. We're all on the same conveyor belt. Anyway, as you age, you're increasingly subject to aches and pains, and maybe worse than that. While some people benefit from talking about that stuff, a number of my clients and friends have benefited more by practicing denial, being the queen of denial, and distraction, the 2Ds, denial and distraction. Staying busy, especially in helping other people. If you're so busy focused on others, it's a little harder to be focused on your own woes. And when my dad was retired, and he didn't retire till he was 82, and he was forced to because the guy he worked for went out of business, my dad enjoyed driving, and he would drive older people to their medical appointments and other appointments, and even to parties. He would gather up people to come to my mom's and dad's house for a party, and some of these old people didn't drive anymore. Anyway, also he would drive, he used to grow tomatoes all the time, many more than he could possibly use, like a dozen plants. And he would drive them around to people, and that turning outward distracted him from any problems, and he never complained, so I don't even know what he had. I do know that right before he died, he was planting tomatoes for the next crop. It was in the spring, and then he had a fatal stroke at 86, but he was working and serving others, whether pay or volunteer, until the very end. And I think that he was never a ha-ha person, just like I'm not. But I think he was a relatively contented guy, and I think staying really busy and productive and other-directed was helpful. Now, you may have a quite old parent who is declining mentally and or physically, and the conventional expectation is for you to spend quite a bit of time with that person and working hard to restrain your impatience, maybe with guilt as a motivator. You need to remember that your aging parent is not the same person that you were with all the time when he or she was younger. It's we all say that old people enter the second childhood. You may have to make peace with the fact that you're dealing with somebody who is or is becoming a second child, having a second childhood, and perhaps try to not feel so guilty. But the larger question is, how much time, how much effort, how much money should you spend on a parent in their final years? That's an extremely personal decision. I'm just going to ask, as I previously mentioned, I haven't mentioned it yet actually, I'm just going to ask you that rather than succumb to undue external pressure to spend lots of time with that parent, that you do what you think wise. And now I want to say more broadly, is it not time now to afford yourself more freedom from conventional expectations? When you were a kid or a teenager, you may have succumbed to pressure to fit in. And even as an adult, you may, for example, spend to keep up with the Joneses, or mouth support for positions that are the norm, the orthodoxies positions. But might your awareness of that hourglass, the sands dropping, seemingly ever faster, might that make you want to be less subject to peer pressure, even being iconoclastic? For example, a lot of retired people love travel, they love time with the grandkids, they love arts and crafts, they spend more time, many of them spend more time socially. The question is, how do you want to spend your remaining time? More social, less social? Travel, not travel? What do you want to do? Sit on the internet, stare at TV, do volunteer, whatever. But I am personally inspired by Isaac Asimov's answer when he was asked, when he was older, you've published 450 books. If you had 6 months to live, Isaac, what would you do? And his response was, type faster. I hope to do the same. Or talk into the YouTube video faster. In any event, I thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko. I welcome your thumbs up and accept your thumbs down. I always look forward to your comments, and I particularly like it if you hit the share button below and share on your social media so that my efforts can have broader impact. And I am flattered if you choose to subscribe to my channel. And in any event, I do thank you for watching. I am Marty Nemko.